The UAP Harold, Case File 038, the Redacted Gulf. Most of the government files we investigate arrive with too little to show and too much to claim. Tonight is the purest example of that we have ever put on this channel. The United States Department of War released a piece of video, 17 minutes and 36 seconds of it, and posted it on an official government website under a name that reads, in the file name itself, UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf. Unidentified flying objects. In formation. Over one of the most militarized bodies of water on the planet. It is a name that does exactly what a good name is supposed to do. It makes you lean in. And then you open the file. And the file does not show you a formation, it does not show you the Persian Gulf. For the first 6 seconds, it shows you a paved ground installation, a road, a building, an empty apron, and then it cuts to 17 straight minutes of blank grey sky. Across all of that time, our own frame-by-frame analysis could find exactly 3 faint smudges of bright pixels, each one small enough that we cannot tell you whether it is an object or sensor noise or a compression artifact. The audio is dead silent from the first frame to the last. And laid over the picture in fixed positions are somewhere between 15 and 18 solid black rectangles, redactions, covering every place on the screen where a date, a location, a call sign, or a classification stamp would normally live. So tonight, we do the honest thing. We hold a dramatic name in one hand and a redacted grey field in the other, and we ask the question the gap between them demands. What do you do with a government file whose title promises everything and whose footage has been scrubbed down to almost nothing? This is the UAP Harold. Case File 038, the Redacted Gulf. Let us start, as we always do, with the paper, because everything you are about to see comes from a government release, not a rumor. Beginning in May of 2026, the US government started publishing declassified files on unidentified anomalous phenomena through a program it calls PRSUS, the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters, hosted on the official portal at war.gov. It came out in waves. Release 1 on the 8th of May, Release 2 a couple of weeks later, then a third and a fourth. Together, the largest coordinated release of government UAP material in history, hundreds of documents, photographs, witness accounts, and videos, drip-fed to the public batch by batch. Our file tonight sits in the second wave. Release 2, distributed, like all of the videos in this program, through DVIDs, the Defense Visual Information Distribution Service, the Pentagon's own media pipeline. Its catalog identifier is DOW UAP PR098, and we are not taking anyone's word for what this file is. We have the actual video on our own disk, and we ran it through our own analysis, frame by frame. Here is exactly what we can and cannot say about it.
The chain of custody is clean, and it is checkable. The file arrived through the Release 02 directory of the WarGov collection. We computed its cryptographic fingerprint, its SHA-256 hash, and it begins F6D489. That fingerprint is what lets anyone, later, prove they are looking at the exact same bytes we are. The container is H.264 video, 30 frames a second, 17 minutes, and 36 seconds long, monochrome sensor imagery, with an audio track that is not just quiet but effectively dead, mean and maximum volume both measured at -91 decibels, which is digital silence. A separate integrity pass on our side sampled every citation in the analysis and returned 7 of 7 verified. The bytes are exactly what they say they are. The bytes are exactly what they say they are. It is everything the bytes do not say that is the problem.
Now, the name. And I want to read it to you exactly, because the words the government attached to this file are the whole reason we are here. This is not a caption someone typed on a blog afterward. It is the label the release itself carries, baked into the file name the Department of War published.
DOW UAP PR098 UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf. .mp4.
Sit with each piece of that. UFOs, plural, unidentified flying. In formation, not one object, several, arranged, moving together with intent. Over the Persian Gulf. A specific, named, strategically loaded stretch of water, ringed by US bases and transited by US carriers every single day. Every word in that title is a promise. It promises you multiple craft. It promises you order among them. It promises you a place. And here is the honest problem, spoken right up front, because it is the spine of this entire episode.
Not one of those three promises is confirmed by the footage itself. The word formation implies several objects in an arrangement. Our frame-by-frame pass found 3 faint pixel clusters, spread minutes apart, that we could not even confirm are objects. The words Persian Gulf name a place. There is no coastline, no vessel, no geographic feature, and no on-screen text anywhere in the recording that establishes where this was shot. And the attribution to the Department of War itself rests entirely on the file name prefix, DOW-UAP-PR, because every identifying marking that would normally sit on the frame has been blacked out. So here is our rule for the next half hour. We will quote the government's label, exactly as written. And every time it claims something the tape does not show, we will tell you so, out loud.
So let us look at what is actually on the tape. Because we have it, and we sat with it, frame by frame. Forget the title for a moment and just watch what the sensor shows from the very top. Because the opening seconds are genuinely strange and almost nobody who shares this clip mentions them.
Opening frame, time 0. Monochrome, low-resolution sensor video. The image appears to show a paved ground installation, a curved roadway or runway edge, a long rectangular building or wall structure with a bright reflective stripe across its roofline, and an open paved area in the foreground. Frame 2, at 2 seconds, continues the same view.
A ground installation. A road, a long building with a bright strip along its roof, an empty paved apron. That is how a file titled UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf begins. Not in the sky, not over water, but pointed down at what looks like a base or an airfield. We flag the word appears deliberately, because on low-resolution monochrome imagery, a runway and a highway can look the same, and we are not going to overread it. But whatever it is a built human place on the ground, and then, almost immediately, it is gone.
Frame 4, at 6 seconds. The sensor view has transitioned from the ground installation to a uniformly hazy, low-contrast gray field that resembles a clear daylight sky or an out-of-focus atmosphere. From this point onward, the active image area is dominated by a featureless or lightly mottled gray field.
6 seconds in, the ground drops away and the screen fills with gray. No cut card, no slate, no caption to explain the jump. One moment, a building, the next moment, blank sky. And that gray field is not a transition. It is the movie. For the next 17 minutes, the overwhelming majority of what this recording shows you is a soft, empty, hazy expanse. The kind of image you get when a sensor is staring up into clear air or when it has pulled so far off focus that the world dissolves. Later in the tape, that gray even develops some texture. By around the 13-minute mark, our analysis notes diagonal, cloud streak structure, like thin cirrus bands drifting through the frame. But texture is not a target. For most of its length, this file is a study in nothing. So where are the UFOs? Where is the formation the title sells so hard? This is the part we have to handle with the most care, because it is exactly the kind of faint, ambiguous detail that height is built on and honesty is measured by. Across the entire 17.5 minutes, our frame-by-frame analysis individually verified 333 in 1410 Temu. Not a squadron. 3 faint smudges inside the active image area. Let me read them to you exactly as the analysis recorded them.
Frame 25 at 48 seconds. A faint, small, bright pixel cluster is visible immediately left of the center crosshair. Frame 50 at 1 minute 38. A A small bright spot, approximately 1 reticle width lower right of the center crosshair. Frame 510 at 17 minutes 18 seconds. A small bright pixel cluster is visible immediately right of the center crosshair, against the diagonal cloud streak background. The final sampled frame, 528, at 1754, no discrete object visible in the active image area.
3 faint clusters of bright pixels near the crosshair minutes apart, and then a final frame with nothing in it at all. That is the sum total of the discrete features on a tape titled For a Formation of UFOs. And here is the discipline this channel is built on, spoken out loud.
We will not tell you those 3 smudges are craft. Our own analysis will not either. It records them as individually weak features, pixel cluster scale, with no associated motion, no scaling cue, and no HUD readout to anchor them to a sensor track. And it lists the possibilities plainly. They could be airborne objects of interest. They could be sensor noise. They could be artifacts of the analog to digital chain. The ordinary flex a low-resolution imaging system throws off on its own. Nothing in the recording lets us discriminate between those 3, so we do not. 3 faint, bright spots, near a crosshair, unexplained. That is the observation. Everything past it is interpretation, and we are going to keep the 2 apart.
And now we come to the thing that actually dominates this recording. More than the sky, more than the smudges. The redactions. Because the single most information-dense feature on this entire tape is the information that has been removed from it. Watch the edges and corners of the frame, and you start to count them.
Approximately 15 to 18 solid black rectangular overlays sit in fixed on-screen positions across the recording. They are placed exactly where the sensor's data furniture would normally be. The strips and boxes that carry a timestamp, a classification banner, a sensor mode label, a platform call sign, and range or altitude readouts. Every one of those fields is covered by a black rectangle. Our inspection of the very first frame put it in 4 words. No classification banner or timestamp is legible, not obscured, not low quality, legible, nothing, because it has been painted over.
15 to 18 black boxes. Think about what that number means. Somebody sat with this footage, identified every single place on the screen that carried an identifying fact, and covered each one. That is not sloppiness. That is method. And what did they leave visible? Let us be precise about that too, because the surviving furniture is generic on purpose.
3 things survive the redaction. A center crosshair reticle, a plus sign with hash marks, sitting at the geometric middle of the active image. A single letter N, used as a cardinal north indicator that shifts position relative to the crosshair from frame to frame as the sensor moves. And corner brackets at the upper left, upper right, and lower left, marking the boundary of the sensor's field of view. That is it. A reticle, a compass letter, and 3 brackets. None of them identifies the platform, the sensor type, the date, or the place. They are the parts of the picture that give nothing away. Everything that would let you check this footage against another case, against a flight log, against a calendar, all of it is under a black box.
And then there is the silence, which on a file like this is its own kind of redaction. Because the audio track is not merely quiet, it is engineered to nothing.
Extracted audio track, mean volume and maximum volume both measured at -91 decibels, across the full 17-minute 36-second duration. The whisper transcription pass produced no recognizable speech. The transcript reads, in full, no speech detected.
-91 decibels is not an open microphone in a quiet room. It is a dead channel. Think about everything that silence removes. No cockpit or operator comms, no crew calling out what they see, no radio traffic, no wingman, no controller, no narration, no ambient hiss of an aircraft or a ship. On most of the strongest files in this whole corpus, the audio is where the information lives. A voice saying a call sign, a date, an altitude, a reaction. Here, the most common source of high-value context has been zeroed out, right alongside the black boxes on the picture. Video stripped of its markings, audio stripped to silence. And still, the government released it. So before we go looking for what it might mean, listen to the exact language the Department of War prints on this program, because it matters. This is the standard release notice that governs files like this one.
These records are being released for informational purposes. Their release should not be construed as an analytical judgment, an investigative conclusion, or a factual determination about the nature, the origin, or the significance of any observed phenomenon. The material is provided as is.
As is. Informational purposes, not a conclusion. So the name that promises you UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf is, by the government's own framing, a label on a folder, not a finding. Somebody, somewhere in the pipeline, catalogued this clip under that title and then released the video with every identifying fact blacked out. And here is the most likely innocent explanation for the void, which we flag honestly and up front. The full story may live in a report that was not released. A mission log, a sensor track, a witness statement, held back while only the video, scrubbed, went out. That is entirely possible. It may be that a real encounter was written down somewhere and we were handed only the redacted picture of the sky. But we cannot verify what we were not given. And a claim you cannot verify is not a claim you get to repeat as fact. So let us take the title's boldest word, Persian Gulf, and actually test it, because it turns out to be the most interesting thing about this file, not because our tape proves it, it does not, but because the phrase UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf is not a random flourish. It lands inside a real, documented, government-released body of footage. And understanding that context is the difference between hype and evidence.
When the Pentagon and its UAP office released these files, a cluster of the videos came from one place, the United States Central Command Area of Responsibility, the Middle East, with encounters dated between roughly 2018 and 2023, and several of them specifically over the Persian Gulf. Independent reporting on the release describes a 2012 clip showing objects flying in a triangular pattern over the Gulf, a 2019 infrared clip that the Pentagon characterized as, quote, likely from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform operating within the U.S. Central Command Area of Responsibility, showing objects in formation over the Persian Gulf, a 2022 video of 4 unidentified objects passing vessels off the coast of Iran, and a June 2024 infrared recording over the Gulf of Oman of a fast-moving, inverted teardrop-shaped object.
So the vocabulary is real. There genuinely is a documented series of U.S. military infrared sightings of unidentified objects, some in formation, over the Persian Gulf, released by this same program. A file named UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf is speaking the language of a real phenomenon, not inventing one. But, and this is the honest edge, we cannot tell you that OUR file, DOWUAP, PR098, is one of those specific clips. Our tape shows a ground installation and a grey sky, not a triangular formation over water. Its location is blacked out. It may belong to that Gulf series, it may be a longer, rawer, or entirely different recording that was simply filed under the same descriptive title. The context is documented. The identity of this exact video is not. We give you both, and we keep the line between them bright. And because the Persian Gulf region is where this file plants its flag, it is worth remembering that this is not new ground for the US military. The most credible, most thoroughly documented military UAP case in the entire history of the subject happened in exactly this part of the world, and unlike our redacted tape, that one has names, dates, radar, and a paper trail a mile long. It is the Tehran incident of 1976.
On the 19th of September 1976, over Tehran, Iran, air traffic controllers and multiple civilians reported a brilliant object in the night sky. The Imperial Iranian Air Force scrambled an F-4 Phantom interceptor to investigate. As it closed on the object, the crew reported losing instrumentation and communications, which were restored when they turned away. A second F-4 was launched. It reported the same instrument loss and, as the crew prepared to open fire, a temporary failure of its weapon systems. The object was tracked on radar and seen by the aircrew. An initial report went to the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff on the day it happened, and copies reached the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the White House.
Now weigh that against our file, because the contrast is the whole point. The Tehran case is anchored in a Defense Intelligence Agency document that has been public for decades. It is one of the reasons the incident is so often called the best documented military UAP encounter on record. It has named aircraft. It has professional military witnesses. It has radar. It has a specific date, a specific city, a chain of specific consequences. That is what a fully documented Persian Gulf region UAP case looks like. You can read who saw it, when, from what, and what it did to their equipment. Our file, by contrast, has a dramatic title and a black box where every one of those facts should be. Same region, same category of claim. Opposite ends of the evidence spectrum. The Tehran case is exactly how we know what this one is missing. And there is a deeper reason a file like this is built the way it is, showing the phenomenon, hiding the platform, and it is worth saying plainly. In 2022, the Pentagon stood up a dedicated office to run down exactly these sightings, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, established on the 20th of July that year. And the word all-domain in its name is not decoration. Its mandate covers anomalous objects across every domain by name: air, space, maritime, ground, and transmedium, the term for something that crosses from one to another. It is the government formally tasking itself to track the unidentified wherever it shows up. So when a Department of War release puts UFOs in formation over a strategic body of water into a file name, it is invoking a real official category that a real official office was created to chase. The vocabulary is legitimate. What this particular tape cannot do is earn it. An office built to resolve anomalies runs on data. Dates, sensors, coordinates, tracks. This file has had all of that painted out. The redaction that makes it safe to release is the exact redaction that makes it impossible to resolve. They gave us the sky and kept the file. So let us give the skeptics the floor, because a serious investigation names the boring answers out loud. And on a tape that is mostly empty grey sky with 3 faint smudges in it, the boring answers are very strong indeed.
Start with the smudges, because they're the only thing anyone is excited about, and they are the weakest evidence on the tape. 3 faint, bright pixel clusters spread across 17 minutes near the center of the frame on a low-resolution monochrome sensor. Do you know what produces exactly that? A sensor. Infrared and electro-optical imagers throw off hot pixels, thermal speckle, and compression artifacts as a matter of routine. Tiny bright specks that appear, sit near the center where the optics are sharpest, and vanish. The analysis itself lists sensor noise and analog-to-digital artifacts as live possibilities on equal footing with objects. And if those smudges are real objects at all, the mundane candidates are endless on a Gulf sky. A distant aircraft in one of the busiest military air corridors on Earth, a bird, a high-altitude balloon, a glint. None of that is exotic. It is what the sky over the Persian Gulf is full of. And the government's own reporting on this very release points the same way. When journalists reviewed the Middle East and Gulf videos in this program, officials and analysts were blunt that there is no evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence and that some of the objects could potentially be hobby or commercial drones, which are everywhere in that theater. Then there are the numbers. In its fiscal year 2024 report, AARO logged 757 cases, 708 in the air, 49 in space, and, for the maritime and transmedium domains, 0. It resolved 292 of them to common or naturally occurring phenomena, and across its entire review found no empirical evidence of extraterrestrial technology. That is the base rate. 3 faint smudges on a grey sky have to beat. It is a very high wall.
That is a powerful case, and it deserves its full weight. The most likely truth about the 3 bright specks on this tape is the dull one, noise, or a distant conventional object, filmed by a military censor and filed under a dramatic name. But fairness cuts both ways, so here is the other edge, and it is narrow, but it is real. The skeptic explains the smudges. The skeptic does not explain the redaction. If this was a bird, or a hot pixel, or a drone over the Gulf, why black out 15 to 18 fields? Why hide the date, the platform, the call sign, the classification off a clip of empty sky? Somebody with access to the full record looked at this footage, catalogued it as UFOs information, and then removed everything that would let us confirm or refute them. The mundane footage and the extraordinary label came out of the same official folder. The skeptic accounts for the picture. Nobody has accounted for the black boxes. And that is the thing this file is really about, once you strip the title away. Not a sighting, a decision. Because on this recording, the redaction is so complete that it stops looking like an accident and starts looking like a statement.
Look at what is missing. There is no classification banner on any frame, nothing that says secret or unclassified or anything at all. There is no declassification stamp. There is no slate card, no title card, no end card. There is no on-screen time code, no platform identifier, no sensor mode label, no range or altitude readout, and no legible text of any kind. The audio is silent. The location is nowhere on the frame. And in fixed positions across the whole 17 minutes sit 15 to 18 black rectangles, each one parked exactly where a fact used to be. What was left visible? The sky, the crosshair, the compass letter, the brackets, the parts of the image that identify nothing and no one.
And that pattern is consistent with the entire program. This is how the Department of War is releasing these files. It shows you the phenomenon and hides the platform. It protects sources and methods, the aircraft, the sensor, the exact position, and lets the scene itself into daylight. But this file takes that discipline to its absolute extreme. On other releases in this program, you at least get a report, a date, a submitting command. Here you get 17 minutes of grey sky, 3 faint smudges, a dead audio channel, and a title with a formation and a whole ocean in it that the picture never delivers. The redaction that makes this file safe to release is the exact same redaction that makes its own title impossible to verify. They gave us the sky and kept every word of the caption. So let us lay the whole thing out in order, one last time, cleanly, so the shape is impossible to miss.
The file. Department of War, PURSU Release 2, distributed through DVIDs. Catalog Identifier, DOW UAP PR098. A 17-minute 36-second monochrome sensor video, silent throughout at -91 decibels, fingerprint F64897 7 of 7 internal citations verified. The name, UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf. Every word of it, a promise. The visible footage does not keep, no resolvable formation, no confirmed Gulf, no on-frame agency. The footage. A ground installation for the first 6 seconds, then a transition to a featureless gray sky that fills the next 17 minutes, developing faint cloud streak texture late. 3 individually weak bright pixel clusters near the crosshair. At 48 seconds, at 1:38, and at 17:18, that our analysis grades as possibly objects, possibly sensor noise, possibly artifacts. A final frame with nothing in it. And over all of it, 15 to 18 black redaction boxes, a surviving crosshair, a compass N, and 3 corner brackets. The verdict, from our own frame-by-frame analysis, genuine as a piece of government-released sensor footage, with authentic generic HUD furniture, but of low resolution, low information density, and near-zero evidentiary weight for the claim in its own title, because it carries no platform, no date, no location, and no resolvable object. And the real Persian Gulf region record its name invokes. The documented CENTCOM Gulf sightings, and the DIA-documented Tehran F-4 incident of 1976, is exactly what a fully sourced version of this claim looks like, and exactly what this file is missing.
So here is the honest ledger. What do we know? We know this is a genuine government-released monochrome sensor video published by the Department of War through the PU-URSU program that opens on a ground installation and then shows 17 minutes of grey sky with 3 faint bright smudges in it. We know the government titled it UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf and then released it with 15 to 18 redaction boxes over every identifying field, a silent audio track, and no on-frame confirmation of any of those words. We know the Persian Gulf UAP category. The title invokes is real, documented in this same release program, and anchored in the region by at least one authenticated DIA documented case, Tehran, 1976. And what do we not know? We do not know what the 3 smudges were. Objects, sensor noise, or artifacts. Our own analysis refuses to choose, and so do we. We do not know whose platform filmed this, from where or when, because every one of those facts is under a black box. We do not know why the recording opens on a ground installation before cutting to the sky. We do not know whether this exact clip is one of the documented Gulf sightings or a different tape filed under the same name. We do not know what was written in the report that was almost certainly not released alongside it. And we do not know why a government that chose to publish this video also chose to erase everything that would let anyone check it. The file is real. The sky is real. The redaction is real. The redaction is real. The formation and the Gulf. Those remain words, painted over a picture that never quite shows them. A ground installation held for 6 seconds, then 17 minutes of empty grey sky, 3 faint smudges nobody can name, and 15 to 18 black boxes over everything that could tell you where, and when, and who. Strip away the title's thrill, and what remains is quieter, and in its own way stranger. The United States government released real sensor footage under a name that promises UFOs in formation over the Persian Gulf, delivered a redacted grey field instead, erased every fact that would let you check the claim, and filed the whole thing under a single word, unresolved. Unresolved is not the same word as confirmed. And a title you are not allowed to verify is not the same thing as a title that is true. Case file 038, the redacted Gulf. Every file read, every claim checked against the record, the UAP Herald, declassified, investigated, filed, a Hive production.